What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I'm so sorry for the wait. I've been probably gone from doing this show for like 6 months, but I'm back and all that good stuff. This is episode 3 of Straight Out of the Herf Zone, and I'm ready to get back into action, create good content, and all that good stuff tonight. So, tonight I have an awesome show planned for us, awesome conversation. So, if you like cigars, you like guns, you like bourbon, then we definitely have something special planned for tonight. So tonight I'm smoking the Mike Rita Tricky Traca, which is an excellent cigar. And I want to give a shout out first of all to Pete Hernandez. He's the Florida broker for Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. And I told him I'd give you a shout out. So here it is, Pete. And yeah, we're just gonna get right into it. Tonight's guest is Jerah Hutchins. If you've never heard of Jerah Hutchins, you're definitely in for a treat. She's a firearms instructor. She helps women get out of abusive relationships. She smokes cigars. She's a cigar enthusiast. She co-hosts another podcast. Great, great cigar and pipe show. She's all over the place. So without further ado, welcome tonight's guest, Jerah Hutchins.
Hello.
What's going on, Jerah?
Man, I'm just enjoying this Artista. I got this at the cigar enthusiast event. They had a big herf out here last year, so this has kind of been seasoning in the humidor. But I love uh, this little boutique brand. They have really good blends. They're amazing cigars. It's a husband and wife owner, and they are just incredible people. And I really enjoy. I mean, I've just got a humidor full of stuff. I know you're smoking a Saka
Yeah, Mika
tonight,
Rita
and
Tricky Traca.
man, and I'll tell you, Steve Saka was one of my favorite cigar interviews I've ever done. Probably
Yeah,
top
me too.
cigar
It's
interview
easy.
that I've ever done. Yeah, and he's just grouchy enough to stay on track, and doesn't really get lost in rabbit holes too much.
Yeah.
But he's such a wealth of knowledge, and I learned so much from interviewing him. He's a really incredible man.
Oh yeah. I actually call Steve Saka Uncle Steve, and so he's been on the show before. He asked me why I call him Uncle Steve. I was like, it's because you're old and grouchy. You just say what comes to your mind like a crazy old uncle. So you're Uncle Steve.
He's my cigar hero. That is that is for sure. That is for sure.
Absolutely. I would before we get into the actual interview. I actually saw you guys from the Great Cigar and Pipe Show down here in Florida over the weekend. I was at the Big Smoke Meets Whiskey Fest, and I I had one of my customers. She's also a good friend of mine, Miss June. She's 97 years old,
Oh goodness.
and they interviewed her. She smokes cigars. She enjoys, the good life. And so I saw Bob. I saw everybody there, and I kind of like stalked them through the Corona Tampa. And I've known them for a while now. So I was like, hey, I got somebody you guys need to interview. I saw them doing interviews. And I don't know if you saw the interview with Miss June, but you definitely have to check that out because she was the life of the whole event, from being at Corona in Tampa, going over to the Hard Rock, and it was a huge blast. Like when I get 97, I want to be just like her. That's why
Just
I
like
brought her with
June.
me.
Be just like June. I love that, man. I'll have to get back and watch that.
Yeah, so they
She's
actually Cigar
it sounds like
Aficionado.
my future.
Exactly. Now Cigar Aficionado actually did an article about her, so that and I managed to get a couple free tickets. So shouts out to Cigar Aficionado. And I was like, of all people, I got to bring Miss June. She's been on the Cigar Aficionado website, and she got to meet Thomas, the guy who wrote the article about her. And I introduced her to the whole industry, and I was worried because she's 97. I was like, is she gonna get tired? Like, no, I'm not known to the Cigar Aficionado crowd, so I got to just sit back, and she attracted attention everywhere we went, and it was a lot of fun.
I'm sure she would. You don't see a lot of women that smoke cigars, but you don't see a lot of women that are about to be a centurion
Yeah,
smoke them either. you know?
absolutely.
So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I love that. I bet she's quite the personality. I'm looking forward to watching that.
Oh yeah, she had her walker at the event. She had her whiskey in the cup holder. She was smoking a cigar. didn't get tired not one time. I had to keep up with her. I was like worried that she was gonna get tired, but no, not at all.
That happens all the time. The young people aren't that energetic anymore.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get into this interview because I've definitely been looking forward to this. I like the energy that you bring. I'm all about people bringing the good energy and stuff like that. So, for everybody out there who has not heard of Jerah Hutchins, give us a little brief background on yourself and just a little bit of a background to let the audience know who you are and why you do what you do.
Oh, I gosh, I am super obsessed with self-defense, and really just teaching people about it, making people aware that they don't truly understand the value of time and how much time that you would have in a critical situation. Knowing that and being aware of it's very important. I think that it's a critical piece of education that general society is missing. Frankly, I think, and some people would call me extreme for saying it, but I think that medical knowledge and firearms knowledge should be taught in schools. I think every kid should know and understand how firearms work and how to be safe with them and the mindset around them and when they're to be used and when they're not to be used. And I'm not crazy for saying that because there was a time when most of America felt that way. There was a time when parents were teaching their children this, right? And maybe, some people say, well, maybe it's not in school. Fine. But parents, I think when you get to a certain age and you start having children, I think that this should be knowledge that you have. I think it's very irresponsible not to know how to physically defend your children. I think that a lot of things would be avoided. A lot of duress situations would be avoided if this education were as prevalent as it used to be, like in the, basically before the 70s.
Yeah.
This was a big deal, and people knew a lot about this, prior to that sort of epoch of time. So I've been teaching this for 16 years. I've been shooting for 30 years. I just turned 42 last week,
Oh yeah, happy
and
birthday, by the way. I think I wish you happy
uh,
birthday on the
he
internet, but happy
did.
birthday.
Thank you so much. And I just, it's become a calling. It's become a life's mission. Um, I love. I'm not into a lot of the same things that the bulk of women are into. I didn't grow up in a household that was full of women. My grandfather primarily raised me, and so I was learning carpentry skills and gunsmithing stuff, and excuse me.
All in
And
the
I
air.
was learning survival skills, and I really came to enjoy those things. And so, I enjoy feminine things too. Don't get me wrong. Like, I am not past a glass of wine. I'm not past a shopping trip. I don't really enjoy shopping as much as I probably should. Um, but I grew up in what I felt was um, a productive childhood in terms of that. I was learning skills. I wasn't wasting my day away on video games. I wasn't, having to be entertained every second of the day. And that was just kind of the household that I grew up in. And so it was very astonishing to me when I moved to the city, because I'm from a very rural part of Texas, in East Texas, close to Louisiana. And when I moved to the city to start my life, I didn't know if I wanted to go to school. I was like, do I want to go to college? Do I want to go to the military? Like, what do I want to do? And as I was making that decision and as I was kind of figuring that out, I learned that so many of my new friends and the people that I met, that lived in the city, did not have any of these skills. And there was a gasping and a clutching of pearls when I brought my shotgun out as I was moving into my apartment. And I'm like, this isn't something
Culture
that,
shock.
and I mean, and I'm 19 years old. And they're like, guns, excuse me. And I'm like, excuse me not. Like, I deserve to be able to protect myself. We're at a vulnerable age, we're a vulnerable gender. We can burn our bras all day about it and it doesn't change biology. And I wanted to be prepared. And then I had a little bit of a stalker situation when I was in my early 20s, the first time that I was actually living alone. And it made me think about what I would do if I wasn't at home. I mean, I had the tactical advantage at home, but what am I going to do if this nut job finds me at the mall or at the grocery store? And so I started to really dive into the pistol. I was taking a lot of classes. I was going to the gun range a lot. Women would see me there by myself, and it was like seeing a chupacabra or
Yeah.
like the eighth wonder of the world. They're like, what the hell, you know? And they're like there with their husbands, and they're like, can you teach me this? And so then I got this idea that I could start a business with this. And so I started teaching part time, and then it eventually became a full time, business. And I tried to go into the military. I wanted to go into the Marine Corps. My dad was a Marine. My uncle was in the Navy, um, and I felt more called to serve that way than to going to college. And I was rejected by the Marine Corps because I don't have any peripheral vision. That was literally the only reason. So gave up that dream, revisited it when I was in my 30s and got rejected by the Air Guard because I have no peripheral vision. And I told my recruiter, I'm like, did they not look and see what I do for a living? Like I don't need any peripheral vision to do this.
Yeah.
Like I teach guns for a living. I shoot for a living. And so then I got turned on to the fact that Texas has a state guard. So we have a state military force and a federal military force. And the state guard doesn't have peripheral vision. They have a waiver for that. So I was able to go into the state guard. So I didn't go into the military until I was 38. So I've been in 4 years. And I love what I do. I have a nonprofit that I started in 2019 called WADE, which is the Women's Awareness and Defense Endeavor. And that started from somebody asking me. They knew a woman whose husband she found out that her husband was sexually abusing their children, and she uh, kicked him out of the house, called the police, started the process. She did everything right. But as we know, or maybe you don't know,
Yeah.
that you have to create a case. You have to build a case against people like that. They can bail out of jail. They can bond out of jail. And so she knew that that was going to happen in a matter of days, if not sooner. And so she went and bought a gun. And, he had threatened her. And she was like, I got to be able to protect my kids. And so she was being very, maybe not as proactive as I would have liked her to be, but then she didn't have a reason before,
Yeah.
that she knew of, right? Other than just having the general skill to have it. She didn't have a reason. She thought she was in a decent marriage. She thought that her husband loved their children. And so now she was being she was being pretty proactive and trying to go, hey, I need to prepare for the worst case scenario. And so out of that, Wade was born. Because I figured out that I realized after dealing with her that there are a lot of women, single moms, women in abusive relationships. There are a lot of women that don't have this skill set that want to acquire it. There are a lot of women in abusive relationships that don't know how to get out. And so we think, oh, let's provide counseling, let's provide these shelters. But how are they going to get to the shelter? That's the
Exactly.
problem. That's the problem right there. How are they going to get to the
There has to be
shelter?
willing to people to step in to assist, which is what you do,
Yes.
which is why I
And
admire what you do because there's not enough people. You could send the cops, they'll come, take the person to jail, and they could bond out like the next day or whatever, even hours later, and then
but
what?
there's a codependence there too.
Yeah.
That's why so many women go back to their abuser. Is there's a huge codependence there. They don't psychologically understand that they can make it on their own.
Yeah.
So I go when they're ready. I work on them. I talk to them. I communicate with them on the down low. And then when they're ready to get out, I go get them. We've tied the hands of police officers so tight with liability that many of them won't respond to any of these things anymore, or there's only so much that they can do. I need to get them out of that person's grip, psychological hold, and I need to show them a new life, and that's what I do. And so we have, as of today, 107 women that we've taken out of abusive relationships, and that's just locally. Like, I don't. This isn't even a nationwide thing for me. This is literally just locally in my DFW community that we've done that what we've done here, and only one of them has gone back.
Yeah, I was watching other interviews doing my research just so I'm very familiar with you, and that's an outstanding number. Like, you
It's the missing link to fix the
just only
problem.
one has went back, which you can't save everybody. You could get a high number, but the
Yep.
the people have to be willing to do it. And I've been around situations. I have an aunt that kind of when I was growing up, she was like just always in like she just always put herself in those type of relationships and all that. And like you said, it's that codependency. And as I've got older, as my cousin who passed away, Vinny, as he got older, like he's had to like whip some ass, a few times to say the least. And there was a situation where this was one of my cousin's dad, and they hadn't been together for years. She finally got it, like, and got away from him. But they, because that's her child's father or whatever, like, she wasn't going back to him, but she was actually being nice. She let him and his current girlfriend stay at the place where she was staying at, and then they ended up getting into an argument and stuff like that. And then she called my cousin Vinny, who was across town, married, has his wife and everything, and all she did was just let the phone just be right there. She didn't say anything, and all he heard in the background was arguing and fighting. So he knew exactly what to do. He just went to her house. My aunt doesn't lock her door. He busted in the house, started whipping, her baby daddy's ass or whatever, and stuff like that. So it's stuff like that's prevalent. And so if there was somebody like you, back then when she was going through all that, then maybe she to help her get out of those situations, then maybe she wouldn't have went through that. So the fact that you're able to do that for so many women is an awesome thing, man, for real.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very such rewarding work. It's tough work. It's emotional work. I mean, there are days when I'm like, God, I can't. Ugh, I don't know if I'm ever going to convince this woman to get out of this relationship. But um, I have a good track record. I know I can't save everyone. I get very upset when I can't save everyone. But you know what? The day that I stop getting upset about it is the day that I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah,
I can't. I just gotta keep going with it. So that's kind of that's just a little bit of background
yeah, most
on me.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm gonna go back, kind of not regurgitate, but kind of just backtrack a little bit. So you talked about how you had a stalker situation or whatever, and around the time I started carrying, well, it's actually before because I don't, in Florida we don't need a concealed carry permit anymore. So I had got my first gun and just was learning how to shoot. I wasn't carrying yet, and I was waiting till July 1st of last year to be able to do that. But uh, I work at a cigar bar, and there was this like guy that he would hang around, and he would hang out like pretty much all day. Kind of was one of those guys, just incel type dude. He just had nothing better to do. Well, eventually, he kind of started acting stalkerish towards one of our bartenders, and legally at that time, I was able to, obviously carry in the car, concealed in the car, and then, with my boss's permission, I was able to carry while I was working. I just wasn't able to carry like everywhere I went. And so when all this started happening, I just started carrying at work and everything, and just because whenever we left, like I would walk around to the car, and I've even had a situation where me and her were both working on a Sunday, which we normally didn't do that. And this dude was like there, and there was a few times he was getting like snippy, and I just kept my eye on him, and like we were cleaning up, and he just like was just standing by the door, just kind of like wanting to walk out with us, and I had to give him the freaking Tony Soprano stare, and was like get the fuck out of here type thing. And so he finally got the hint and left because I don't want to do violence, right away. I want to keep. I'm a cool, composed person. And finally, like when he left, I didn't even let us leave the shop till I saw him like drive off, and then like I was like poking around the parking lot and everything, making sure he was like totally gone. So I could relate to, I've seen stalkerish situations and all that. So where was I going with this? So is that the number one reason that women usually, will start to get interested in firearms, like having, feeling unsafe, having stalkerish situations?
Yeah, you're on the right track. Most women, and I'd love to change the narrative on this, but as it stands right now, most women get into self-defense and firearms because something's already happened, or they're afraid that something's going to happen based on a threat someone made. There are not a swath of women that are getting into firearms and self-defense proactively, because they're interested in it, because they see value in it. Many of them don't see value in it until something bad happens. And I'm telling you, it's a matter of time. I'm not saying every woman is going to get attacked, but I am saying that violence happens. Like, the saying, never say never.
Hmm.
That's true most of the time. But I am telling you that violence and crime and rape and abuse is never going to be eradicated.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we don't keep trying, okay? Because if we don't keep trying, it's just going to overtake everything. But this is a very, very important thing for women to know, right? So you have these organizations like Moms Demand Action and Everytown for Gun Violence and all this stuff. And what they don't realize that they're doing is they're advocating to ban the tool, the only tool that is going to be able to help you defend yourself, right? Only force stops force. So
Yep.
you have to bring the same or more amount of force to stop something like that, violence, active shooter situations. You have to bring the same amount or more of force. And they don't understand that. And they say, well, if we just get rid of all the guns, then we won't have to worry about this. And that's a very, very, very small way of thinking. That's a very ignorant way of thinking. And they're coming at that, and they're saying this out of fear because they don't want to learn how to use the gun. They don't want to learn how to defend themselves. They want to farm out their safety to someone else and have that false sense of security instead of understanding that on the micro level, they are responsible for themselves. There is no other answer. There is no argument to it. That is scientific fact. That is physics. Okay. When you are there and you are alone, no one can save you but you. And a lot of predators are banking on you being alone,
Hmm.
unaware, unprepared, and unarmed. That's just the deal. And so that's what they're doing is they're advocating to make it worse. And they don't even realize it. I testified in one of our local city council meetings because in over here in Richardson, Texas, because the rumor was that the NRA was going to move their headquarters from Fairfax, Virginia, down to Richardson, Texas, and so like all these people in Richardson that were anti-gun are freaking out, and I was a breath away from helping run the NRA when they were trying to unseat Wayne LaPierre. They had they had nominated Colonel Allen West to take over the EVP position. And he called me and said, "Hey, if I get this, I want you to take the position directly underneath me." I was like, "I'm in." So I was like literally waiting for 3 weeks, for NRAM to come around to see if I was going to be moving my butt to Fairfax, Virginia. And so I went to this city council meeting and I listened to all these incredibly ignorant statements. And I want to make sure that people that are listening understand that ignorance is not necessarily bad. I'm not calling them stupid. I'm calling them uneducated because
Yeah.
that's what they are. Okay. If they really understood the full scope of self defense and how violence works, they would understand that sometimes violence is the answer. Sometimes it's the only answer. And nobody really wants to admit that, or a lot of people really don't want to admit that, but it's the truth. And so you can say, "Oh, I'm a peaceful person," but you have to understand that peace is a choice. You only get to choose peace if you are capable of great violence.
Yep.
If you are saying, I'm a peaceful person because you have no recourse, because you don't know how to defend yourself, that's not a choice. You are simply useless.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. And I know people in wheelchairs that know how to shoot a gun. I know people who don't have all their fingers who have taken training. So don't sit there and tell me that you're not capable of it, because you absolutely are. You're only letting your fear overtake you, and that fear is moving the course of your life into bigger depths of fear. And so now your only solution is, we have to ban everything that bothers me. We have to ban everything that scares me. And that's not going to work for the majority, and the majority rules.
Yep. Absolutely. I actually had a situation, not situation, but like recently I was having a conversation with my stepmom, my dad's ex-wife, and she all my life, she's only what 11, 14 years older than me, because my dad met her when she was like really young or whatever. So I was like 7 and she was like almost 20. But anyway, so we were just talking and all that, and she always hated guns, et cetera, et cetera. But like as she's gotten older, like she was just, like you said, ignorant about a lot of stuff. And when we were having a conversation, she likes to go camping, and she drives a Jeep and all that, and so she has like a whole setup for the tent in the back of her Jeep and everything. And she was like, "Man, I'm out here in the wilderness camping. I just need to get a gun so I can like learn how to shoot." And then and so that was like the conversation. It didn't really get, I just told her that I'm getting into guns and shooting and everything. And so a couple weeks ago, she was down here visiting, my sister and my nephews and everything. And I actually had a chance to take her to the gun range, Pint and Pistol in Cocoa. I don't know if you've ever heard of that place. It's a newer place, but
No.
shouts out to them. It's a cool spot that I like to go to. But yeah, so her best friend, her best friend's husband used to be a cop, so of course he's got guns. So he I was gonna do the safety briefing for her, but he ended up doing it, before he just let her borrow the gun to go to the range. And so he gave her like a Sky 9mm purple and black one. And she actually did really good in shooting. So I say that to say, um, the ignorance can be changed if you just think logically. And
Well,
sometimes you
and
can't always get people to
sometimes,
think logically, though.
and sometimes you have to find the end for, you have to find the end to bring that conversation up.
Yeah.
So she to me, what I got out of that was, she's more scared of animals than she is of people. Because she didn't have this epiphany until she's like, crap, I'm out here in the woods all by myself. Like, what am I, she's probably like, what am I going to do if there's a bear or a coyote or whatever, and that's the perfect end to go, okay, but like, you're alone in your house.
Yep.
What if a person decides that they want the stuff that's in your house? Or what if you're walking through a parking garage and somebody decides they want to steal you or your purse or your car or whatever? Like, that's basically the same thing. It's the same story, it's just in a different setting.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad that she had that realization. I actually had this is hilarious. I lived in a really liberal part of Fort Worth, Texas, in a neighborhood called Fairmount. And most of that neighborhood, very left leaning, very anti gun. And you may have seen this on the news, I don't know, but I think it was like 2018, around 2018. There was a young girl, 8 years old, that was kidnapped in broad daylight while she was holding her mother's hand. They were just walking in the neighborhood, and a guy pulls up, doesn't say anything to anybody. He just pulls up, snatches the little girl up, throws her in the car, starts taking off. Well, the mom jumps in the car and starts hitting him in the face, and he literally boots her right out the passenger door and drives off with her kid. Could you imagine?
Mm-mm.
Now, that as soon as he drives off, the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
Okay. We, as a neighborhood, found her in less than 48 hours. Okay. I think we actually found her the same night that this happened. if I recall correctly. Now, before this happened, I want to say maybe a month or two before this happened, I'd gone into our Facebook group for our neighborhood page and said, I'm going to put a free license to carry class on the law portion.
Yeah.
You can come take it for free. And then when you do your shooting qualification, this is how much it's going to cost you. There was like hundreds of comments on it. We don't want you teaching murder classes in Fairmount. We don't want guns in Fairmount. Our children are safer without guns, yada, yada. Then this happens. 400 of my neighbors absolutely descended upon my inbox
Hmm.
wanting training. And many of those people were the same people that said, we don't want guns in Fairmount. We
Yeah.
don't want murder classes in Fairmount. Now you understand that you don't need to be walking in. I'm sorry. There
Yep.
are no safe places. There are only safe people. One person can come and change the safety dynamic of any atmosphere anywhere. Okay? So now you know that, and now you have to be reactive because now something happened close to home because you said this will never happen here. We're safe in Fairmount. Negative.
Yep.
Negative, right? So it's the message that I'm trying to get out to people is you should be learning this before you ever have to use it because you're always going to fall back on your lowest level of training. And if you have none, you have none.
Yep.
So this should be something that this should transcend party politics. The First Amendment and the Second Amendment should transcend party politics.
I
Every
agree.
Democrat, every independent, and every Republican should believe in the Second Amendment. I'm going to say it again just so that everybody gets it.
Come on now.
The First Amendment and the Second Amendment should transcend party politics. Every Democrat, every independent, every Republican should believe in the First and Second Amendment vehemently, with gusto, no compromises. That should be the foundation. Then you can get into your social issues and you can debate those and you can identify with your party based on how you believe. But those two things should be everything, like freedom over everything. Because that is the reason the First and Second Amendment are the reason why the United States is so great.
Yep.
It's the reason that we haven't been invaded inland. Japan knew better during the Pearl Harbor attack. They knew better. That's why they attacked that tiny little island because they knew, and I quote, behind every blade of grass in America, there is a gun. Because they knew that they weren't just going to have to deal with our military, they're going to have to deal with our civilians. And our civilians are the biggest army in the world. They knew that. So the fact that we're getting away from that means that there is something nefarious afoot. Somebody is trying to propagandize people into believing that they are not worth defending. Rory and Gracie said that. He said, self-defense is not about learning techniques. It begins with the fundamental belief that you are worth defending. And they are trying to permeate people's brains and make them believe that they are not worth defending because a populace that believes that they are not worth defending is easy to control, easy to manipulate, and easy to influence.
Absolutely. That was a lot right there, but it was awesome. That's that's truer than true, man. I tell you what.
But, we can't believe that anymore, right? We're bigots and terrible people and racists to believe that. But even though statistically the highest, like the fastest growing population of people who are getting guns and training with guns are black people, black women,
Mhm.
black women. They're
Yep.
they're going to the range in droves because they are finally starting to get it.
Oh yeah.
They have been oppressed too long. They have been told what to do too long. They've been lied to too long, and they've been pawns and puppets for politics for too long, and they're starting to get it. And they're like, you know what? We deserve everything that everybody else has, and they're right.
Yep. I was watching and did you see the this was a couple years ago, but it was a Coleon interview with Killer Mike, Coleon Noir.
I've been friends with him for a long time, and that dude is fire.
Yeah.
Like he
I
is
love his
not
stuff.
afraid.
I
He's
love
not afraid.
see that's the thing. I want I like to I follow people that are not on that bullshit. But so I saw the interview with him and Killer Mike, and Killer Mike was talking about how when women were first allowed to vote, and then and then black men were allowed to vote, but the black women couldn't. Like, but they were standing outside, with rifles to defend the black man's right to vote. Like they weren't, they weren't gonna, they were not gonna to to take that. They wanted to defend that right to vote, and that's the thing. Like I come from the area where I grew up was like I kind of grew up between like good and a bad area, so it was a primarily hood area, and then I grew up in a better area later on. But so growing up, the majority of people I hung out with, they were all black, and then so obviously at a certain point, you kind of see all the stigmas, that all this violence and all that type of stuff. But as I got older and started seeing people just unlearn all of the negative stereotypes and the stigmas and all that type of stuff, like you said, you see more black people getting into self-defense and everything. And I mean, it's an awesome thing, you know.
Well, I have a theory, and I don't know if you follow Maj Toure, but if you don't, you should. So when the Black Lives Matter was kind of coming up, he countered that with he started an organization called Black Guns Matter,
Yeah, I've
and
seen that.
he has done really great work all around the country, going into urban areas and teaching, especially young black men, hey, we don't use the gun for gangster shit. This is
Yep.
why we use the gun, right? And he's doing really great work in that field. But he and I were smoking a cigar and having a conversation, and he said, I said, I want you to tell me if I'm on the right track, because spending time with you, I've spent time with Kevin Dixie, who owns No Other Choice Firearms Training out down in the Atlanta area. I actually went to the hood with Kevin. He was like, if you want to see it, if you want to understand it, if you want to talk to people, I'll take you. And I went. And there were people that lived in the hood that truly believed, that were educated, that they couldn't own guns because they were black. They
Yeah.
couldn't legally own a firearm because they were black. And I'm like, that's not the law. Like, who told you that? That's
Yeah.
not the law. But I told Maj, I was like, I believe that the more self-defense training you have, the less racist that you are. Because I think that if you know how to react, if you know how to protect yourself, if you know how to retaliate to a violent action, I think you are much more confident to sit down and have open civil dialogue with people who society has taught you how to be afraid of,
Yep.
or somebody who maybe looks like they're mean or has the face tattoos, like the typical stereotypical things. But look at how those stereotypes fade away. I mean, I remember when tattooed people were just shit upon.
Yep.
I remember that, and I remember thinking, like, growing up, and I was like, oh my god, tattooed people are scary. Well, now I have three. I have three of them.
Yeah.
Three tattoos.
So I got all kinds of tattoos, and
Yeah,
actually,
and
my tattoo artist, he learned how to tattoo when he was locked down in the feds and everything. And so once he got out, like, like he wasn't even working like a regular shop. Obviously, he had the same cleanliness standards. That's why I went to him. But like the stuff that I chose was like very simple, but like he did a good job on it. Like they kind of look like prison tattoos, even though I've never been to
right.
prison. But but he's my tattoo artist. Shouts out to Zay. Shouts out to him. He's out of South Carolina now. But anyway, he could do really good tattoos. But but this guy, he was tattooed from head to toe. He had like tattoos all on his face and all that type of stuff. But the nicest guy you ever meet.
But he probably was unfairly stereotyped
Yep.
at some point, because of the way that he looked. There, no, uh, in my whole life, since I've been in my whole adult life, let me say that, I have never not sat down with somebody who the general public thought looked scary, or answered a question from someone, or ran away because someone was approaching me that looked scary.
Yeah.
um i I think that it makes you less bigoted. I think it makes you less racist. I think it makes you less I just think that it makes you less worried about those things and more worried about who the person is, right? Because they choose to look that way for a reason, and there's a myriad of reasons why. And that's frankly none of your goddamn business,
Yep.
right? But if they're gonna sit across the table from you, if you're gonna break bread with that person, or if you're gonna have a conversation with them, or if they ask you a question at the grocery store, there's no reason to freak out. They haven't given you a reason to freak out yet. All they do is look a certain way.
Yep.
So I think that, and Maj was like, "You're totally right." He was like, "You're totally right." Like if you walk into a room and you give everybody the same level playing field, but you also have a plan to kill everybody in case that shit goes wrong. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's kind of how you have to play it. And I love having that outlook. I love having that mindset. I have such a diverse group of friends. I have such a diverse group of contacts. I I can go to the hood, if I want to, and do real work and good work, because that shit doesn't scare me. That
Yep.
doesn't scare me
Well, I
anymore.
can tell you this:
Anymore.
in Brevard County, your face is good in the hood already. You ain't even been to Brevard yet, but I know my face. I got a good clean. If you have a clean face in the hood in Brevard, you're good. I could go, like I'm from Cocoa area, but I live in Melbourne now, which is like a little bit like south. But I could go to the hood in Melbourne. I lived in Titusville in the hood. Like
There's
I'm good.
there's a gun range in Melbourne or close to it.
Frog
Something about
Bones.
a frog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Frog Bones.
I've been
I
there
saw you liked them
before.
on Instagram.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
them.
so a good friend of mine, Joe Savastano, he actually works there, and he's
I would
retired now, but he's like, he's an instructor and all that too. But
I would love to come and teach out there. Like, if you could get me into frog bones, I would love that. That would
yeah,
be
I'll talk to Joe, see
awesome.
what he can do, because
Okay.
like I said, that's my homie. We like even before I got into guns, like I just knew he was a gun guide. So when got my first gun, like I go with him and his girlfriend sometimes to the range, and he actually, since I'm still new, like I'm obviously trying to improve every single time. I like take notes of what I did wrong and how I could do better. What he did, because he got me in without having to pay for range time. He got me in before they opened one Sunday, and so I was out there, and he noticed that my dominant eye, this eye right here, or this is my dominant eye. I was closing this eye. So what he did, he tore like a piece off my ammo, the cardboard off my ammo, and put it inside my eye protection. And after that, I was shooting right there in the middle. And so now I've trained myself to where I don't need it, but like just to tighten myself up a little bit, like I will still cover up that eye, so I keep both eyes open, and so it works every time. Like the last, I went to the range on Sunday with my mom, and she's never shot a gun before, and I told her about that. She didn't really want to do it, but she was doing good by the second go around on the second target. But I did it, and I was hitting everything like right there in the middle, and so I only had like 3 off shots that was off target, and so to me, that's victory, because there was a time where I was just all over the place, but I learned how to tighten up and everything. And
It takes practice. It's a perishable skill like anything else. You can't take one class and then throw your gun on the nightstand and go, I'm good.
yeah,
You have to visit it, right? And a lot of people don't realize that you can practice with your gun without shooting a single bullet out of it. I mean,
yeah,
dry fire practice at home is so necessary. It's
I
so
do that all the
necessary.
time. Like I'm out here in my garage late at night. Half the time I work the evening shift, so I mean I need to get the laser thing, because people were
The
like, oh
mantis.
yeah, so that way I could just just dummy around, so that because they say it's bad for your firing pin, but I don't obviously pull the trigger when it's free and clear, like too much, because I don't want to like ruin anything on my gun. But um
It's a little bit less about that, and I mean, you should be doing that to a degree. I mean, but yeah, it's not like you can't replace a firing pin on a gun. I
yeah,
mean, eventually your gun is going to need maintenance just like your car does. But do you stop
yeah,
driving it because your car is going to need maintenance? No. You can't stop doing that either. But it's really more about your draw stroke from the holster, pressing out into that good stance, making sure that you don't forget how to properly grip, that you don't forget trigger discipline. That's the biggest thing too, because a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot when they're drawing from holster because they forget where that finger is supposed to be,
yeah,
right? So, anytime that you're dealing with a gun, the two questions are, where is my finger and where is my muzzle?
yeah.
You gotta know that stuff. So,
That's my
you know,
biggest thing, is the finger. Like the finger is my biggest thing, And when before I took my mom to the range, like, I already had my weapon unloaded and everything. I just brought my range bag inside, and that way I could show her about, okay, this is how you're gonna do this, and that way when she got to the range, she could put it into practice. But I already kind of have that basic knowledge because she had never shot before. And the biggest thing I was telling her, because like the whole entire time, because she kept having her finger like near the trigger, or like I was like, "Ma," and I know my gun was free and clear, but I was like, "Get in the habit, finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot."
Well, and I have a lot, I have students that come to lessons with me and they're distracted. And I'm like, we're going to have to reschedule because this is a thing that you can't half-ass.
Yeah,
You have to be present with me the whole time. Otherwise, you're going to have an accident. You can't multitask. Multitasking is generally ineffective anyway. A lot of people don't realize that from a time management perspective, but it's ineffective.
yeah,
And you have to concentrate on one task, finish that task, move on to the next task. So when you're with me, you have to be present, you have to be ready, and you have to be like open-minded learning, because you try to like shoot a few times and then go look at your phone, it ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work.
exactly.
And that's how accidents happen. So I got no problem firing a client. I got no problem telling them, you got to go, we got to reschedule this when you can actually be present in the lesson.
Absolutely. So, do you so I know you're a firearms instructor. You do that privately, but do you also work at a range as well?
I don't. I'm totally an independent instructor. I've consulted on ranges and I've helped build ranges, and many of them that I still teach at. But I'm not an employee of any range,
Okay.
and I don't know that I want to be. I kind of like traveling around. I'm a sponsored instructor for the Personal Defense Network, so I tour in the summer. So I'll be in Reno um, later this year. I'll be in Atlanta. I'll be in Florida probably if you can get me into frog bones.
Oh yeah, I'll
Um,
if
yeah,
not, I'll talk to
yeah.
somebody within, Pint and Pistol. I'll be like, look, like, I'm getting pretty, I'm the type of person I make connections wherever I go. So it's just like I'll find a way. If it may take a little bit, but I'll find a way.
I would love to. I would love to do that. But I love touring. I love teaching. Um, it's a huge passion of mine, and I just don't really. I don't see me stopping until I'm dead, frankly.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, being passionate about what you do, you're never gonna work a day in your life. Like me, I work at a cigar lounge, finally in this business full time for the last 3 years. So not only am I a cigar personality, I get to use that to draw customers into the shop and then recommend them a cigar, and all that shit just is what it drives me every single day, even when I'm tired. Normally, I'm tired on Wednesdays, but I was like, I'm restarting the show. Not even tired right now, so
I'm
like
not even tired. I love
not
it.
even tired. Actually, I have coffee, and I poured a little bit of bourbon, mixed it in with my coffee because I needed to pick me up, but also relax, a relaxed mind. So
I hear you on that. I hear you on that. Well, that's good. Yeah, I used to own a cigar lounge over in Tyler. Really enjoyed it. I've been in the cigar industry I've been smoking cigars for 20 years. Um, I took a Davidoff master class and did an internship at Silverleaf over in Fort Worth and worked there for almost a year, just kind of honing the skill. Really enjoyed it. Um, Made great money there too. And I think that's a secret that not a lot of people really know. Like cocktail waitresses, like women,
yeah,
um, is if you really know your stuff about spirits and cigars, you will make so much money.
yeah.
You'll make so much money because it's a very unique trait to have.
Oh yeah.
People love their tobacconist.
Oh
They
yeah.
love their
Every Friday and
mixologist.
Saturday night, I'm doing well in tips just from selling cigars, and
They
like, and
love their sommeliers. Yes,
but
yes.
I've learned how to bartend because of the shop I work at. We have like one girl that's a true bartender, and then there's another girl just kind of like learned along the way. And and every once in a while, like, so if our regular bartenders are, if they had to call out or something like that, I'm like the next qualified person in line. And so on like a slow night, we're talking a slow night, I made like 150 bucks like in tips. That's a slow night. So I've done like $200 to $400 and we don't even have liquor at our shop. We have wine-based liquor, so I'm mostly pouring beers and wine and all that. A little bit of cocktails, but people know I'm not that proficient with the wine-based cocktails. I know how to make an old fashioned. That's the number one thing I know how to make. I've memorized that in my head. Put all the bitters. Do everything up. It's real easy to do. I have a customer that likes White Russians, and that's really easy to do. So like certain things, because I'm not behind the bar all the time. So, but people generally know what I'm good at, and if I can't make something, if it's if it's slow enough, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to learn how to make this. It's gonna take a little extra longer because I have to sit and look at the recipe, but I'm gonna make you happy in the end.
Now,
So
what lounge are you out of?
I work at Smoke Ring 72 in Merritt Island.
Okay,
Yeah, so
I'll have to
so if you
come
ever heard
check
of
it out.
Cocoa Beach, if you're ever in Cocoa Beach, that's where everybody goes. They come out to watch rocket launches and all that type of stuff,
Yeah.
and our shop's the only shop within like Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral, Port Canaveral, within that general area. And we used to be a little shop in the Merritt Island Mall, very small shop, like 500 square feet, and now we're 5,000 square feet. We have a separate private lounge. We just expanded our humidor last summer, so we got a shit ton of space in our humidor, and we're already running out of room after we filled it. And
Holy crap.
we're getting ready to get new shelves so that we can get more products in there and make better use of the space. We got a separate coffee area. We got a pool table. We got everything. It's a one stop shop. We got what you need type thing. So
I love that. Well, I will definitely have to check that out. I'll put that. I have kind of a running list of my favorite cigar places across the country. So I'll have to make it a point to stop in
yeah,
next
if
time
you're
I'm in
ever in
Florida.
Orlando, we're literally 45 minutes from Orlando, and we're obviously not as big as Corona, like, but people have said like for Brevard County, we're like almost comparable, but it's a smaller market, but we got the selection, but not quite the selection as Corona, obviously, because the whole place is a damn humidor, and so it's like the Walmart of cigars over there. But our shop
Oh yeah,
is for Brevard County, where we got the biggest selection in the area. So,
I love that. I love that for sure.
a lot of
Awesome.
people have seen, the Great Cigar and Pipe Show. How long have you been? I've noticed you've been co-hosting on there and everything. Tell us how you got hooked up with those guys.
Man, the Chooches are so great. Um, I I got with them. I met them at a Herf that David Blanco Cigars put on in Tampa, and I flew out to Tampa for the Herf. I was working on a cigar lounge and restaurant concept in Arlington, Texas, and I had never heard of the Blanco brand. Wanted to learn about it, so I got invited out to that Herf. Flew out there, and the Chooches were doing a live broadcast, and this is the first time that back then they were the Great Lakes Smoke
Yeah.
Show, and so I totally walked by and they waved and I saw an empty chair and a set of headphones, so I just sat down, put the headphones on. I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, okay, cool, who are you? I'm like, oh, well, let me tell you about me. And we became really good friends, and they got with me later on after the show and said, hey, we could use a female on the show. We'd love to have more female guests in the industry. So since then, we've interviewed people like Karen Berger. We've interviewed women who make and sell cigar accessories. Like Blue Smoke ATL was on. She makes awesome, beautiful jewelry like cigar pokers.
Yeah.
They're
I've seen
awesome.
I've seen
Yeah,
those.
and we've just had and we probably the most important episode that we probably did was one that we did a couple of weeks ago where I had Brandy Smith on with and Randy as well with Operation Underground Railroad, and we had a human trafficking podcast,
Yeah,
and
so
we yeah,
Justin and Crystal
and
Sheffield.
Justin and Crystal were
Yeah,
on there.
so they
Sheffield.
live in Rockledge, which is close to me, and I'm really good friends with them. I sell their cigars, and so I think I DM'd you on Instagram, but I know the DMs are flooded, so that's why I was like,
I get a
but
lot of spam
yeah,
in there for sure.
But
Get a
it's
lot of
all
spam
good
in
though,
there.
'cause I know you're gonna come on the show. So yeah, so Kristen and Justin are good friends of mine, and I've been there since like the beginning. I've kind of helped consult them with them a little bit to kind of help make things better. So those two are doing some awesome things.
I love what they're doing. I love what they're doing. They think that they're small time, and I'm telling you they're not. I
Yeah.
mean, they're moving the needle, they're making a difference, and I hope that they know that. I hope that they felt that from the show that we did. They learned a lot from that show. Brandy and Randy were able to educate them on different statistics that they didn't know about, different ways that they can help. So yeah, that was a big deal, and that was an awesome show. So I've been with them, I believe, since 20. I think I met them in 22. I think. So I've been doing the show for a while with them now, and I love it. I love them. I wish I had more time to spend with them. I wish we all didn't live so far apart.
Yeah.
But next year I'm going to make it. I'm on a project right now that's got me super busy, probably until the fall. And then I really want to make it a point, after that to, get back to traveling more, get back to, seeing, traveling around and seeing people more. I think that those in-person connections are really important. So that's the plan for after September.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Speaking of the Chooches, okay, so I think when I first met them, so I was at the Great. I go to the Great Smoke every year down in West Palm Beach, Boynton Beach area that Smoke Inn puts on.
Yeah.
And so they were set up, and of course I actually have explicit permission when I go to Boynton Beach and their West Palm store, and even at the Great Smoke, to like be shirtless like the whole time. Like they don't give a fuck.
Because that's your
It,
deal.
like
Yeah.
I literally, if I wear a shirt, like they literally everybody busts my balls. So like that's it's like basically unofficially contracted that I'm shirtless the whole time. So uh what's her name? Holly Joy, who goes by I forgot her Instagram handle, but anyway, so her husband's a pilot, so they were actually flying in. She lives in the Orlando area, and then so they were waiting for her to come on, and then I ended up getting on the show when they were broadcasting. So I kind of have a similar story too. Like I kind of knew them, but I said, "Hey, can I come on?" And or they asked me if I could come on. Actually, sat there and I was shirtless, and since I'm a professional podcaster at this point, we just keep the conversation going until Holly arrives. So that was fun.
They're really good people. They're doing really good things, and they're a to me they're a crucial part of the industry.
Yeah.
They really give people a platform, and I've enjoyed my time on there.
Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely. So what am I gonna say here? So let's talk about the human trafficking thing. So that's something obviously you know, defeating human trafficking is something that you have a passion for, because it's obviously a terrible thing in this world. Do you work with any organizations that help to stop human trafficking?
I'm getting more into it. Yes, obviously I've seen a lot and I've learned a lot working with abused women, which is a very similar issue um, that human trafficking is. It's obviously abused. If you have someone who's abused, it's a gateway into
Yeah.
human trafficking because their psyche is so damaged. Um, I'm not officially working with Operation Underground Railroad, but we are doing a little project together where we're trying to help a young girl get here from Ghana to get a spinal surgery. But I'm not officially affiliated with them or anything. But I have very good relationship with them. I think that they're doing amazing work, and I love that they started listening to the people because a lot of their operations were overseas, which is great. And they still have overseas operations, but people were saying, "Hey, what about here? Like the United States is a huge hub for this. What about here?" So they've moved some of their donation dollars into domestic human trafficking efforts. Um, they've worked a lot on technology. They're getting with law enforcement agencies and they're saying, "Hey, if you don't have this piece of technology, let us help you get it. Or if you can't afford it or whatever, let us help you get it. Let us pay for it for a year. Let us show you the need for it. That way that you can work it into your budget for next year. And it's really working fabulously. They were able to, there was one case where they were able to unlock a guy's phone, um, they had very much probable cause to do so. They found a myriad of child porn on there, videos of children being sexually abused. And they were actually able to identify other people because this guy wasn't talking. And they were actually able to identify other people in those videos, and they were able to take screenshots of the videos, blow them up, and get fingerprints off of them to identify the other adults in the videos that were abusing the children. This technology exists. And if it's used in the right way, if it's used in an ethical way, we can really make a dent in human trafficking, child abuse, sexual abuse, all of the above. And Operation Underground Railroad is spearheading that. And they're really, really blazing a trail, when it comes to this. So, I mean, they are, in my mind, the number one organization for this effort. So that's probably moving forward going to be my primary focus as far as human trafficking goes, is how can I assist Operation Underground Railroad.
Absolutely. Do you have a website for them? Because I'll put it down in the description once I post this on YouTube and everything.
Yeah, I believe it's OUR Rescue, OURrescue.org, I believe.
Okay.
And there's all kinds of like testimonial videos. You can support them by buying their merchandise, and their merchandise, their hats and shirts, pretty dope, if I do say so myself. I mean, worth wearing all the time. It's a conversation piece. Um, and they're just doing fantastic work. I can't say enough good things about what they're doing. So, the mission, the calling really is, hey, the very first layer of this is permeating society with understanding the importance of self-defense and the Second Amendment. We've got to start there. And if we can start there, I believe that giving people a self-defense education will um, help limit human trafficking, help
Yeah.
bring down those statistics, right? Because then kids, women, and people are going to know their worth. They're going to understand that they're worth defending. They're going to be able to see the signs of people trying to play their asses, and they're going to end that shit. So that's the foundation right there. But all this is like it's two horns on the same goat, right? It's almost a Medusa head of issues, right? But the foundational part is the self-defense part.
Yep.
And then while we're doing that simultaneously, we have to be catching these predators. And we do that a lot through technology. People posing as children to try to get enough evidence to get these people arrested and behind bars. Catching people through counseling and identifying problems before they become bigger issues, right? That's one of the things that we talked about on that episode of the podcast is, they asked me, do you think that a child predator can be rehabilitated? No.
No.
I think that once they get there, it's too late.
Yep.
And it starts with pornography. It starts with, and I'll honestly get a little bit on my soapbox here, because I think that it also starts with, doing things like having a huge amount of sexual partners and not focusing on finding one person, like, and monogamy, right? Like, and I know that what we talked about before the show started, but
Yeah.
and I'm not dissing that, but what I'm saying is that when you open yourself up to things that are borderline immoral, right? All it is a gateway to bigger things. It's a gateway to more evil things. And you have to be very, very careful with your heart and your body, because those things are sacred. And when you say things, when women, especially, well, men too, I'm not going to limit this to women, but when people say things like, I just want to be sexually free. I just want to be able to do what I want to. I just want to be able to sleep with who I want to when I want to. You're never going to be satisfied. You're never going to be satisfied. You're just going to keep looking for more, looking for more, looking for more. And then it goes into pornography, and then it goes into I want to have a menage a trois. And then it's never enough. You're never satisfied. And so then you have to go do more nefarious evil things in order to think that you're being satisfied. And then you turn, and then before you know it, you're a child predator. That's what it comes down to. And so I think that it's just kind of bringing back morals, to people. So I'm not saying that you're never going to mess up, or there's never going to be temptation, but what I'm saying is that you have to look at this person that you're pursuing, or that you're spending time with, and going, this person has a heart and a mind and feelings, and you have to be sensitive to that, and you have to be compassionate to that.
Yep.
And I think that once you start going really deep into these immoral areas, you lose that, and then it just, that person isn't a person anymore to you. It's a conquest, it's an endeavor, and that's when things start to get really dangerous. And that's why human trafficking is so prevalent, um, because I think that society as a whole in general has lost their moral way. Do you see what
Yep.
I'm saying? Lost
Absolutely.
their moral way. So I get that there are different kinds of relationships. I get that there are different ways that people feel happy. I'm just saying, be very careful, and make sure that the heart is a part of it,
Oh yeah.
and
Well,
not
the
just the
biggest
body.
thing is, with things that we're talking about is consent, consensual adults. First of all, that's the biggest thing. And
It
also
is consent.
safety as well. Like people, like me being a non-monogamous person, like I kind of operate in the same way. Like I'm all about commitment. I ain't out here cheating on whoever I'm involved with. Like it's all out in the open, type thing. But the issue is just commitment to whoever you're dealing with. And in the same way, also hate and evil, as well, because there's a lot of evil people in this world that will take something that's, they could say they're part of whatever subculture or whatever, and then just use that for evil as well. So I see what you're
But
saying.
but you're seeing this a lot in the LGBTQ plus community. You're seeing a divorce there. The LGBs are divorcing the TQ pluses because they're in droves going, no, 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 that ain't the life we're about. Like, we're not trying to permeate the minds of your kids. Like, we're not
Exactly.
trying to, yeah, we're saying is, I'm a woman that's attracted to another woman, and I want to be able to live that life without being physically harmed.
Hmm.
Okay, that's the basis of it, which I agree with. Okay, I agree that I may not be gay and I may not agree with that lifestyle, but I do, and I will die on this hill. I agree that they should be able to live their life as long as they're not harming anyone else. They should be able to live their life free of physical violence. So I don't have to support a lifestyle to support a life. But when you start going after kids, and you start doing drag shows, and you start
Yeah.
bringing the kids to that stuff, and that is not good for their brains, you need to let them be kids. They're not supposed to be talking about sexual shit yet. They're not
Exactly.
supposed to be exposed to that yet. This is supposed to be happy and playing outside and blowing bubbles and riding bikes and playing with toys and learning stuff in school like math and English. Okay, we don't need to be teaching kids this stuff in school. So there's that divorce that's happening in that community, and so you're starting to see a resurgence of morals, right? And so I think and I'm loving seeing that play out, because there is a big difference between the LGB part and the TQ plus part, and it's starting to become it's starting to come to the surface, and I'm enjoying seeing that, because we have to make sure that we're protecting the kids at all costs.
Absolutely. Like any type of abuse is just. I actually know somebody who I knew him for like 10 plus years, and he used to be the manager of the shop that I work at. Like I knew him from the old store, and when they moved to the new store where I currently work at, uh, basically it came out that he was molesting his 9.5-year-old stepdaughter for 9.5 years. And when that happened, he got arrested, and he's in prison now. But I was dissatisfied with the fact that um, he's, I forget how many years he got, but then he's got like twice the number of years on probation when he gets out. So he just
I
needs
have a
to,
really hard time. I have a really hard time even considering parole
yeah,
for
me too.
somebody like that. I mean, you say
Like
we
we
say
talked
things
about
like we
earlier,
say that yeah, I mean, there's
they
exceptions
can't
to
be
every rule.
rehabilitated.
They can't, and I don't believe that they can. And I think that if they can, it's very very few and far between. And so we say things like that. Well, they've served their time and they've paid for the crime, but did they? I mean, I think that there's a huge difference in. I think there's a huge difference when kids are involved, when it's not an adult to an adult thing, which is still bad, very
Yeah,
bad.
people like that,
Okay,
they just
but
need to lock them up for life
yeah, but I
because
think that when kids are involved, it's there is no parole. There, like
exactly.
you can't, that just can't be the thing. And so I have a really hard time swallowing that. And I'll admit it. I'll admit that bias out front. Kids are precious. They're the most precious thing that we have. They're our future. And when you when you take a child and you take their innocence away like that, I think that you are just beyond repair. I mean, the only person that can repair you is God. And I think that you just need to go on ahead and meet him so
Yep.
you can get repaired. You know what
And
I
that's
mean?
how I feel, and I knew this person for a long time, right? And
And they're
here's the
good at
thing,
hiding it.
here's the thing, I would have never suspected. So my best friend was here. This was a couple years ago when it all came out, and this was before I even worked at the shop. He came over to my house, told me what happened. I've never been speechless in my entire life. I was in my early 30s. I'm 35 now. Never been speechless. I was sitting here in this very spot. There's another chair across there, right? And I was speechless for 45 minutes. And I've never.
It's a very hard thing. It's a very hard thing to swallow. And when you're around kids, you just need to operate like there's a camera on you because there probably is.
Yeah,
And you got to be really, really, really careful. You got to be careful what you say. You got to be careful what you do. I mean, their little minds are so malleable. I'm watching, and I have a few more minutes. I have about 15 more minutes and then I got to hop. But I just started watching, finally had the time to sit down and start watching Quiet on Set.
I started watching it. I couldn't even finish it. Like I watched one episode. I was at my mom's
So
house
I'm,
because
I'm
she
having,
has.
I'm starting episode 3 tonight. And what, what they did to Amanda Bynes,
Yeah.
or what this man did to Amanda Bynes, and the fact that they had not one but two pedophiles working on that set with those kids. And you see in the interviews that some of them were affected and some of them weren't. Like the pedophile didn't try stuff on everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Because frankly, some of them kids wouldn't have been having it. Some of them
Hmm.
kids' parents wouldn't have been having it. But some of the parents that were like, this kid is my meal ticket, I don't care, which is bullshit,
Yeah.
those are the ones that are easy to get in with and influence and take advantage of. And I got no room in my heart or my soul or my tolerance for that. And I really, really feel like parents have to step up. Like, this is an issue wherein parents have to step up. Okay. Sorry.
Yep.
Your children have no right to privacy outside of when they are in the bathroom.
Yep.
Okay, like that's just the deal. And I told this story when I was doing the human trafficking episode for the Great Cigar and Pipe Show. When my grandmother, my grandparents who practically raised me, sometimes when I would come home from school, I'd come out in the living room and I'd see my grandma going through my backpack, and it pissed me off one day. And I'm like, what is wrong? Like, you can't just go through my stuff. And my grandma's like, oh, did you buy this backpack? No, I bought this backpack and it is on loan to you from me. It's my backpack. I can look into it anytime I want to because I paid for it, it is mine. You have no right to any privacy whatsoever unless you are going to the bathroom. That's it, because
Yep.
you are under my protection. I'm responsible for your safety until you are 18 years old. So until you're 18 years old, I will go through your shit anytime I want to. And that was a very important conversation for her to have with me because even though I didn't like it, that was the foundational conversation that made me understand that somebody had my back.
Yep. I was raised the
Somebody was
same way,
looking out
old
for me.
school.
You
And you
know,
know
somebody
what?
was looking out for me.
I made it.
And I think that yeah, exactly.
And
And
you
I
made
think
it.
parents just have to understand that there are better ways to explain this to kids than just do as I say. Or I'm the mom, too bad. You know, you have to let them understand the why. It's not because you want to make their life miserable. It's not because you hate them. It's not because you don't want them to have any friends. It's not because you don't want them to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It's because there are things that they don't know yet. There are things that they don't know yet. I explained this to my niece one time. She was very, very upset because I had taken a certain action against a boy that she was dating. I had a certain conversation, and I said, "How old are you?" And she said, "I'm 16." And I said, "How old am I?" And at the time, I was, I think, 32. And she said, "You're 32." And I said, "Okay. Now, have I ever been 16?" Yeah, because you got to be 16 to get to 32. But
Yep.
have you ever been 32? No. Okay. So maybe you need to calm down a little bit and understand that I have more life experience than you. And so maybe every now and then you need to listen to me when I talk because I'm trying to save you from stuff. Now, there's things that I'm not going to be able to save you from. You're just going to have to learn those on your own. And I know what they are. Okay. But there are certain things that you're just going to have to trust me on. And this is one of them. Okay. So that's a good way, I think, to explain to kids like, I've been down your road, but you've never been down my road. So maybe I have certain pearls of wisdom that you need to pay attention to that's going to save you from a lot of heartache. And that's just the deal. So
Absolutely.
the parents just have to step up, and that's the bottom line.
Absolutely.
And not
Well,
just the parents, not just the parents. Hold on. It takes a village.
the whole
So
village.
the adults have to step up. Anybody who loves a child, aunts, uncles, grandparents, good friends of parents, like we all have to step up to make sure that the kids are safe, and more importantly, that the kids are understanding why they need to be safe. That's it.
Absolutely. Well, Jared, I thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's been such a fun conversation, and it's just what this show needed to get back out there and all that. And I've enjoyed seeing all the other interviews, so it's good to spend that time and let you talk about what you do and you know get yourself out there more than you already are. Tell everybody out there how they can find you on the social medias and
Yes,
also
yes.
online presence.
Awesome. Yeah, my website for my gun training is clearingthechamber.com. You can find me on pretty much all the socials at Clearing the Chamber, except for Twitter. I'm just Jerah Hutchins on Twitter. And actually, I have a huge LinkedIn presence too. So if you're a professional, if you're a gun range owner, if you're a corporation that's looking for safety training, you can find me on LinkedIn, Jerah Hutchins, or you can go to clearingthechamber.com. There's a way for you to get in touch with me on there as well. My email address is clearingthechamber@gmail.com. I'm pretty easy to find because I have a weird name. So you just Google me and you'll find what you're looking for. So I'm here. I'm on the mission. So get in touch with me if you have questions.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. And if this is your first time, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, leave comments and all that good stuff. I'll put all the information down below and I'll let you know when we get done recording so we can talk that real shit.